Now I can show you how to do a lineage tracking. So I can show you how to do manual and then later on semi-automatic cell parent labeling of a time lapse, so that later we can generate growth heat maps from that. We will use the Kierczkowski 2019 Arabidopsis leaf dataset. We can open it and go to meshes, and we can try with mesh T4. We can turn it around. Okay. And now we can open the next time point, T5. Open. Okay, now we can go to view, select either stack 1 or stack 2 and move them apart. So in order to analyze the development of cells, so make a growth map between two time points, we need to first segment both time points, and the data for the first time point is stored as in stack 1 and for the second one in stack 2. And the labels for the first time point generally will not correspond to the ones from the second time point. So in order to be able to generate a growth map, we need to associate the labels of the daughter cells in stack 2 with the labels of their parents in stack 1. In the main tab, turn the stack off, either main or work, turn the surface off, turn mesh with cells on. So now you should see the cell outline of the mesh 1. Then go to stack 2, turn the stack off if you have it on, and turn the surface on with parents ticked. The labels will generally disappear because if you are starting now, the parents are not defined yet. And here the parents were already generated, so to remove them we can go to mesh and reset parents. Okay, so this is what you will see when you will tick parents on. Then turn mesh on with cells selected, and to easily distinguish the cell mesh of the second time point from the first one, remember to change its color using the colors editor tool with stack 1 active. Here, border, select something like green. Okay, and remember also to select stack 1 in the control key interaction, and this will allow to move stack 1 independently from stack 2. And looking from the side, hold the control key and move the wireframe cell outline of stack 1 some distance above stack 2. Now rotate the view to look from the top, and looking from the top, try to align a few center cells as precisely as possible. And if the growth was relatively large, you can also scale mesh 1 to increase its size in the main tab with the scale checkbox. In general, it won't be possible to superimpose all cells at the same time, and this is not a problem, as the mesh 1 can be moved after labeling few cells. And to transfer the labels from mesh 1 to parents of mesh 2, make sure the surface visualization in parents is checked for stack 2, and that stack 2 is active, so the stack 2 tab is selected. Then all editing operations work only on the active stack. After that, you can select the grab label from other surface tool, this one here, and now when you hold the Alt key, the tool will transfer the label of the cell you are looking through from mesh 1 onto the parents of mesh 2. So you can try a few and verify that you are getting the correct labels. Okay. So you can try something like this ones, you see. You see sometimes there's cell division. There we go. And you have to transfer the label for all the cells, and sometimes in the second time point it may happen that some of the cells have divided and both daughter and cells will get the same label but will remain separated. Since it will take quite long, we can try to load the parents. T45. You can see that now you have all the parents assigned. After you're done transferring all the labels, you can save the parents. I'm going to save parents. And make sure that the stack of the second time point, in this case stack 2 is active when you save the parents, otherwise you will save an empty file. And also if you save your mesh now, the parents will be saved with it in an attribute map. But we still recommend saving the parents as separate CSV files for several reasons. First of all, you have better control by putting sample description, data, etc. in the file name. And second, when working with time-lapse data across multiple time points, you will be able to combine multiple files later. As I did now, I just loaded the T45 parents. And finally, there are other processes that use the parent labels, a secondary cell label, to assign cell types or zones within an organ and might overwrite the parent labels. And now we can try to do a semi-automatic parent labeling using a few manually specified correct parent label to have faster process. First of all, you have to have the 2 time points of your mesh. We can reset the parents again. And we have to label just few cells, preferably located at the extremes of the mesh, like local maxima, saddle points, cells along the border of the mesh. And like, for example, let's see. Here. Somewhere here. And this one here. And something here as well. Say something like this one. And this one here. Okay. Now that we have transferred few of the labels, we can run the process mesh deformation set correct parents. Here with mesh1 active. Okay, and this creates an attribute map with the manually assigned parents and mark them as correct. And after that we can run the process mesh deformation mesh 2D auto parent labeling 2D. And this process repeatedly calls the process auto parent labeling step 2D, so that a deformation function using the current parent labels is created, and this deformation is used to map mesh 1 onto mesh 2. And new parents are searched in the direct neighborhood of already parent labeled cells. And so locations of either cell centers in mode find cells near a center, find only the cells that haven't divided, or junction projection, find cells that have or have not divided. And now all the best fitting cells are parent labeled. And then select yes for correct errors, so that misannotated parent labels are reset, with the exception of the few manually fixed parents and parents that are at least auto-fixed parents away from the current border. And we can run the process auto parent labeling 2D. As the process run on the mesh 1, we have a heat map that shows the cells with the correct neighboring labels in blue and incorrect ones in red. It will appear soon after a few steps. And after each step, the labels with incorrect neighborhoods are cleared and the process repeats every time. Okay, now we got quite many cells parent labeled. We can tick surface of stack 1 on, and we can see the cells that are correctly parent labeled in blue and the cells that are wrongly parent labeled in red. So we can see, we can fix some of them. We can select view stack 1 and we can move it over stack 2 a bit closer. Okay, and now we can untick stack 1. So we have this one here, we can fix. Then we can fix some on this point here. Okay. Then we can check, we can correct a few others in this area. We can change the scale so we are able to recognize which cell is which. Okay, and then we can correct one more here, down here. Okay. Now remember to save the parents. You can call it T4, T5 in progress. So in case you have an issue, you can always come back to this step. And now we can repeat the process again. Let's save also the project, progress, and the mesh in progress. Okay. Remember, whenever you're running auto-parent labeling 2D, stack 1 must always be the active stack. You can always tick surface on stack 1 so that you can follow the progress and see which cells need still to be fixed. And we can see that the number of cells to be fixed is reducing. Okay, now we have just few cells left. We can correct them. Okay. Okay. Now should be done. To be sure, we can run one last time. The process, but first we can save the mesh. In the project. Now we finish to correct all the labels manually, and we can check if all the cells are correct by just running one step. And we can see that there are still this mistake, but actually it's because there are extra cells here that are not present in this part. So to avoid this mistake, what we can do is we can just get rid of this cell that is creating problems. We can do that by going to Mesh, Selection, Extend to Whole Cell, and just remove it. Okay, yes, so now it's almost perfect, but we have still few cells that are creating problem. We can remove them. Okay, extend to whole cells and just delete. And now it should probably be fine. Now we can see that the entire mesh is correctly parent labeled. Now we can save it again, save. We can save again on this one and save the project. Okay, the semi-automatic parent labeling is completed.